I realized she was cheating on me the moment she started being too perfect. We'd been together for 4 years, and lately things had felt off. Distance, quiet arguments, little silences that lasted longer than usual. But then, just a week before Christmas, everything changed. Out of nowhere, she started giving me random compliments, over-explaining where she'd been, and holding her phone like it contained state secrets. I didn't yell. I didn't cry. I just noticed. I paid attention in a way I hadn't before. Something in her behavior was off, and my gut screamed at me that something was wrong. I didn't confront her immediately. I didn't even ask questions. I let the days pass, watching, quietly observing. And then, one evening, I borrowed her laptop to print something. She'd left her messages logged in. I didn't go digging, but just enough to confirm the horrible truth. There was someone else. Same promises. Same jokes she used on me. My heart sank, but oddly I felt calm. I wasn't the type to explode in anger, and somehow I didn't want to ruin her life over it. Not yet. I just wanted to see what would happen next. And that's when I made a decision that would change everything for both of us. Instead of confronting her or making a scene, I did something nobody expected. I became the boyfriend she thought she had lost. I started paying attention to things I used to take for granted. I cooked her favorite meals without being asked. I remembered little details, her coffee order, the exact way she liked her blanket folded, the stupid little things she thought I forgot. I listened, really listened. I stopped interrupting. I even stopped keeping score in arguments. First, she didn't notice. Or maybe she did, but she didn't react. Her eyes were softer, though. Her laugh sounded lighter. And her guard started slipping in ways she hadn't allowed in months. I could see it in the small things. The way she leaned against me when she thought I wasn't looking. The little sighs she let out when I held her hand. I didn't rush her. I didn't push. I just showed up. Always. Early. Patient. Present. I wanted her to feel safe enough to stop hiding. And deep down, I wanted to see if she could even be honest with me again. But even as I played the perfect boyfriend, a part of me kept a careful distance. I didn't let myself fall completely. Not yet. Because I knew the truth. I'd seen it. And I wasn't ready to forgive, at least not in my heart. It was strange, being the perfect boyfriend, while knowing she'd betrayed me. I'd catch myself smiling at her little quirks, and for a moment, I almost forgot. Almost. But then I'd remember the messages, the other person, and the hollow feeling in my chest would come back. I started noticing how easily she relied on me again. How she texted me constantly, asking for advice, sharing thoughts she'd once hidden. It made me wonder, did she feel guilty, or was she just drawn back to the familiarity? One night, she was talking about some work stress, and I made her tea and sat with her on the couch. She leaned on my shoulder and sighed, murmuring, "I don't know what I'd do without you." Her voice was soft, vulnerable. My heart twisted. I didn't say anything, just held her. And in that moment, I realized something terrifying. I still loved her. Not the cheating, lying part, but her. The girl I'd fallen for 4 years ago. And that love, stubborn as it was, made me ache. But I kept my secret carefully tucked away. She had to come clean on her own terms, and I needed to know she could face me with honesty before I decided what to do. 3 weeks passed like this. Every day felt like walking on a knife's edge. Smiling, cooking, listening, while carrying the weight of what I already knew. She laughed at my jokes, leaned on me when she was tired, and slowly, without realizing it, let herself be herself around me again. Then one evening, she sat me down in the living room, her hands trembling, eyes red from crying. I could tell immediately something was about to break. She avoided my gaze at first, then finally looked up, and the words spilled out. She confessed everything. Tears ran down her face as she admitted the lies, the cheating, the other person. She said how guilty she felt, how much she regretted it, and how she knew I deserved better. She said she wanted to do the work if I could forgive her. I listened. I let her finish. Not a word escaped my lips, not a flicker of anger or shock. She looked at me expecting something. Maybe a scream, a plea, a demand for an explanation. But I stayed quiet. just nodding, letting the confession sink between us. And then I told her. "I've known for almost a month," I said quietly. Her face changed instantly. It wasn't anger. It wasn't fear. It was something bigger, heavier, like she'd seen a ghost she couldn't run from. Her mouth opened, closed, and opened again, but no words came out. I didn't yell. I didn't accuse. I didn't demand explanations. I just looked at her and said, "I wanted to be absolutely sure this wasn't a mistake before I stopped loving you." She sank into the couch, covering her face with her hands. I could hear her quiet sobs, and for the first time, I felt something shift inside me. Not the usual anger or heartbreak, but a strange clarity. I knew exactly what I needed to do. That night, I packed my things. I didn't say another word. The apartment smelled like her perfume, her shampoo, the little things she left around that made it feel like home. I stuffed them into boxes, each item heavier than the last, and I felt lighter with every bag I carried out. I left quietly that night, carrying only what I needed. I didn't knock on her door to say goodbye. I didn't leave a note. I didn't want any last-minute arguments, any begging, any false promises that would pull me back in. The streets were cold and quiet as I walked to my car. My hands were sore from carrying boxes, my chest tight, but there was a strange calmness underneath it all. For the first time in weeks, I felt like I had control over my own life again. The next morning, I blocked her on every platform: phone, social media, messaging apps. No speeches, no ultimatums, no second chances. It wasn't about revenge. It was about survival, about finally drawing the line for myself. I didn't cry. Not then. Not immediately. I just sat in my empty apartment, letting the silence wash over me. And in that silence, I realized something. Heartbreak doesn't always come with yelling or dramatic confrontations. Sometimes it's just quiet, deliberate, and final. The days after were strange. Ordinary things felt different. Walking past the places we used to go, hearing a song we both loved, even just opening the fridge and seeing food we once shared. Every little reminder felt like a small sting, but I refused to let it break me. Friends asked if I was okay. I lied. I said I was fine. And in a way, I wasn't happy, not really, but I was steady. I had made a choice, and for the first time in a long time, it felt like I was living for myself again, not for someone else's mistakes. I replayed those last few weeks in my mind often. The week of over-the-top niceness, the stolen glimpse at her messages, my careful patience, and her eventual confession. It all seemed surreal, like a movie I'd been forced to star in. But the strangest part was realizing how deeply I could love someone, even after knowing they had betrayed me. And yet, I knew that love alone wasn't enough to keep us together. A few weeks later, I found myself walking past a cafe we used to go to every Sunday. I froze when I saw her inside, laughing with a friend. She didn't notice me at first, and when she did, our eyes met for a brief, heavy moment. No words were exchanged. Nothing needed to be said. It hit me then. Closure doesn't always come from a dramatic conversation or an apology. Sometimes it comes from simply letting go and moving on. I realized I wasn't angry anymore. Not truly. I wasn't bitter. I just accepted it. Accepted that she had made her choices and I had made mine. I kept walking, heart heavy but steady. There was no urge to chase her, no desire to scream or beg. That version of us was over, and a new version of me was starting to take shape. Stronger, more aware, and more careful about who I let in. Over the next few months, life slowly settled into a new rhythm. I focused on work, on friends, on small joys I'd ignored while wrapped up in the relationship. I cooked for myself, went on long walks alone, and allowed myself to feel without hiding behind anyone else's presence. Sometimes at night memories would creep in, her laugh, her touch, the way she used to lean on me. It hurt, but it wasn't unbearable. I realized heartbreak wasn't just pain. It was a teacher. It showed me my limits, my capacity to forgive, and, most importantly, my strength to walk away even when it hurt to leave. And slowly, almost imperceptibly, I began to feel lighter. I didn't need her to validate me. I didn't need her to apologize endlessly. I had chosen myself, and that choice became its own kind of peace. One evening, I caught myself smiling at a memory of her. Not with anger, not with longing, just a quiet, distant smile. I realized I had finally let go of the weight I'd carried for so long. I didn't need closure from her. I didn't need an explanation or a reunion. I had closure from myself. I knew I had loved fully, endured betrayal without losing my integrity, and walked away with my dignity intact. And that was enough. I had learned something that would stay with me forever. People will disappoint, sometimes in the deepest ways, but how you respond calmly, deliberately, and with self-respect defines who you truly are. I looked out the window at the city lights, feeling the quiet hum of life around me. A chapter had ended, yes, but another was beginning. And this time I was ready to write it for me. Appreciate you listening. Subscribe and comment. It really helps the channel grow.